Okay, so hello and welcome to CPL's Comms After COVID webinar, which is part of the Memcom's Interactive Week. My name's Lucy Oakeshott and I'm the Business Development Manager here at CPL. And in a short moment, I'll hand over to Mike Sewell, CPL's Managing Director, who will be presenting the webinar to you. Just before we do that, I wanted to run through a little bit of housekeeping. We will be happy to take questions at the end of the presentation. The chat function has been enabled, so as we go through, if you have any questions that come up, feel free to note those down and we will try to address those at the end. For your reference, we're also recording the webinar and all of this will be made available to all of the attendees at the end of the session. I hope that you find this session useful, so over to Mike.
Okay, thank you, Lucy, and hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. I've called this sort of the ABC, and I'll come back to the Adapt, Build, Connect, what I mean by that in a second. But firstly, just very briefly, I wanted to introduce you to CPL and who we are. We are a content marketing agency with a full service publishing operation, including editorial, design, digital media sales, print and mail management, digital development, video, digital marketing, podcasts, the list goes on. We've got a team of 50 who are normally based here in our office in Cambridge, but definitely aren't at the moment. Everyone apart from me is working from home at the moment. And as you can see from our client list there, we have clients from a range of sectors, including many different membership organisations, including professional bodies, trade associations and charities. What we're all about is creating and delivering content marketing strategies to engage and inspire our clients' audiences, and really creating content that helps to make people feel part of our clients' organisations. So, in short, our purpose is that we help people belong. So that's what we're all about. So moving on, let's get on with this ABC. So the first that I wanted to look at today is about the fact what has happened during COVID so far, very quickly, is that we have seen membership organisations, and I'm sure there are examples being talked about throughout the Memcom conference, adapting phenomenally well to the new challenges that have come over the last 2 or 3 months. Certainly, I hesitate about using the word pivot, but I will do, but that's certainly what we've seen a lot of our clients doing across the membership section, certainly CPL's clients. And here's just 3 examples from our clients: the British Parking Association, which from scratch created something called the Meeting Place, which was a place for its members to engage on a daily basis, and also regular webinars and updates to engage with their colleagues. FIDI, which is an organisation for the international relocation and moving industry, has again set up a series of webinars to update its members set that up at really quick, short notice. And again, the Chartered Institution of Waste Management has had a number of different initiatives, including the rolling out a mentoring program to support members both this time and in the future. So it's been, and there's, as we all know, throughout the membership community, there's been huge, fantastic examples of how organisations have adapted to this new world. And it's clear that some of the new ways of working are going to be here to stay. However, it's not all about change right now. At CPL, our perception is that the most successful membership bodies are those that have got the balance right by both adapting to the new normal and building on, which is my B, building on what they have already. So you can see on this slide that this audience have sought out sources and channels that are familiar, trusted and tested. They're already dealing with an awful lot of change and an awful lot of new ways of working. And at times like that, they're also looking to get a combination of trying new things, but also relying on what they know and what they trust. And the best perhaps example of that nationally in the UK is how the BBC was saying that something like 94% of people in the UK have engaged with it over this last 2 or 3 months, which is phenomenal numbers, and it shows how people will go back to tried and tested channels at times like this when it's challenging. And certainly that's what we've seen in the membership sector with professional bodies who've really been leaders during COVID and providing services to their members, and the members have sought them out. And what we've seen is that there's been real benefit in building on the channels that you already have, that you're already using and that are already working. And certainly what we've seen with our clients is that despite the cost challenges which have been going on at the moment, not least falling revenues in the advertising area, they've chosen to continue publishing because at times like now, it's more important to keep communicating than ever. And actually what we found is that the publishing cycle creates a bit of a narrative, especially that sort of monthly publishing cycle. The magazine, you can see through some of the magazines that we've been creating how we've gone, even in the last 3 months, from that initial kind of crisis mode and reacting at pace through to considering what the future might hold and get, you know, related to the new normal and considering what the future might hold. And it's been great to see how our editors at CPL have responded to that, and how membership organisations have really used existing channels to communicate some of those things. And there's a piece actually that's on our website which highlights how publishing and using your existing channels at the moment can work really well, and has done certainly for our examples of our clients. So that's the A and the B about adapting, how we've seen organisations adapt, and how we've seen also organisations looking to build on the channels they have already. So what I wanted to move on to now is the C in this, just for 10 minutes or so, to talk about how you can use content to connect with your audiences. And this is building on a report that we created at the end of last year called The Content Connection, which was a joint research report carried out with Ashridge Communications, which is an organisation which is an expert market research in the membership sector. And really it was designed to provide a bit of a snapshot about the sector and the membership organisations, looking at the perspectives from people working in membership organisations and how they're using content. And we carried out both quantitative and qualitative research with these 37 organisations, and also followed up with discussion forums where we shared a lot of the sort of findings and the learnings from that process. And as you can see here, we took a kind of two-pronged approach to the research and to the report. The theme was the link between content and the organisational objectives of growth and retention. And then the target was, we particularly were interested in talking to organisations where they saw membership growth as being a real priority. And clearly that's going to be relevant for everybody going forward as it was then, where we were going to, for some organisations, being a case of getting back to growth. So it was about how you can use content to grow your membership as well. And there were 5 key takeaways that we kind of identified from that, and they are around these 5 areas. And I'll just go through each of them in turn with a little bit of detail. And there's more, as I say, more detail on the in the report that you can download from our website at cpl.co.uk/the content connection. So going through each of these takeaways, the first is about using content channels. We talked to the membership organisations about what their key channels were, and also about what their 3 reasons were for creating content. So just to clarify, and those were around these 3 areas, which was firstly to engage their current members, obviously really, really important, to focus on that, to focus on retaining and adding value to the membership proposition, building awareness to the organisation, and attracting new members. They were the top 3 reasons for creating content, and they stood out fairly clearly as their top reasons. So if we're looking in the context of our report, where it was very much about using content to attract new members, it was interesting to look at the channels that were being used to do that. And certainly the research revealed that there's an awful lot of channels being used to get to those members. So at least 15 channels are the ones that we identified through the report. Of these, the top 5 were the main website, social media, advertising, annual conference, and the magazine, including the magazine website. And those were the channels that were used as their main ways to attract new members. And I think it was interesting that just to see, you know, with so many different channels that you can use now, the benefit is still worth considering at times like this, the benefits of making sure you're also really focusing on perhaps on the top 5, or certainly in the top 10, maybe not all 15, and make sure you can focus on the ones that really will help you have the most impact. So one of the things we were talking about all the time was just to the audience we were talking to about measuring and making sure that people are measuring against their KPIs. And it was interesting that in the research, when we asked them how frequently the performance of content channels was assessed against KPIs and business goals, only a third, or less than a third, said they checked every month, and only around a quarter of that number checked every quarter, so every 3 months. So there's still more work to be done to measure the benefits of the channels that you're using for your content. So that was an interesting piece of research, and it certainly reveals the fact that that it's time there's a constant need to assess your strategy, assess your content strategy, and what you're using and the channels that you're using. Obviously, no more so than now, when members are using different channels and looking at things in a different way. It's still worth reassessing your channels, but also, as we said, making sure that you're considering those tried and tested ones as part of that. And as you can see on there, there's a link on our website again to more details on this element of the report. The second key takeaway was around tone of voice, and making sure you're consistent in that. And that's a real challenge that the research revealed. You've often got different teams responsible for delivering different content. For example, one team might be looking after the content for members, while others are looking at external comms and marketing comms. And that can be a real challenge to keep the consistency going, especially when, again, you have multiple channels being used to attract new members. So it's a clear lesson that you need to avoid the risk of your content and your messaging becoming muddied, and really think carefully how cohesive your messaging is across all these different channels. For example, print, email, social, web, newsletters, and all the different other channels that are being used. Because if you get your tone of voice wrong without a clear house style, then you're going to risk diluting your message and reducing your influence. So again, it's worth looking at your strategy and thinking about how you can make sure your tone of voice is consistent across these different channels. And also considering, where do you need to have so many different people responsible for different areas of content? Can that be streamlined? Are there ways of making that more consistent? Are there ways of sharing content more effectively, sharing and curating content more effectively across different channels? The third area was around, the takeaway was around using data well. And clearly this is a massive challenge for every membership organization. It goes far beyond how you're using it in terms of your using content effectively. And the feedback probably won't surprise you that you need data. Many of you have it, but you don't always use it well. Certainly in the research, it showed that 20% said data was rarely shared around the organization, and a very small percentage, less than 10%, use data to identify members likely to respond to particular content. So there's real opportunities. You're increasingly now with improved CRMs, improved systems, there's an opportunity to use data more cleverly, and certainly we feel there's an opportunity from this research to work hard to think about that. Certainly in terms of retention and looking at members who might be on the verge of leaving, can you use data effectively to identify who they might be and target them with specific content to reinforce the benefits of membership and reinforce the benefits of being part of that. And again, as we come on to the next topic, it's sort of linked about using targeted content, that 35 out of 37 respondents agreed they could focus their content better to grow their members. So lots have segmented their audiences through special interest groups in different ways, but their approach to content still seems to be a one-size-fits-all situation. As we say there, we really feel this is a wasted opportunity. There were examples from the survey of some organizations doing really well to channel their content to different audiences. For example, the CIPD, Trust Institution of Personnel Development, focuses particularly on the people in the early or mid stages of their careers with their content, because they see that's where the opportunities for growth are coming. While Royal Society of Biology was an example of an organization which is providing completely separate communications for young audiences, for example. So there are some real opportunities there, but we feel that as organizations get better knowledge about their members and better data about their members, you can share it better and use it cleverly. You can then work harder to target your content specifically at specific audiences to give them what they really need. And there's clearly pockets of it happening well, but we feel there's more opportunities to do it. And we also appreciate that for many organizations, when resources are limited, and the challenges are there to get it right. We appreciate the challenges there, but clearly there's absolute opportunity there to improve the way that things are done. The fifth of our takeaways came across as sort of being the big aspects about what people were feeling about the way they were using their content was around paywalls. And this, for me, it's an old conundrum. It's about how much content you kind of keep away from your members and how much you use your content to communicate to a wider audience. And this certainly is part of your drive to increase the reputation of your organization and to gain new members. The research showed that 59% make at least some of their content available to non-members. And in most cases, the reason for that was to encourage conversion to membership. And 33, so about a third, make their printed member magazine available in some form to non-members. But virtually no one in our survey allowed non-members to access all their content for free. And we know why that is. For many, they say the magazine is the #1 benefit. And that's why it's an asset they don't make available to everyone. It's the #1 benefit of membership. And in many cases, the cost of subscribing to the magazine is higher than becoming a member at all, which might seem odd in some ways, but we know why that's happening when you can say that the key goal of the magazine is to drive membership numbers. But we still feel at CPL that there is an opportunity to consider about the fact you're investing quite a lot of money in creating content. Often you're outsourcing it to qualified journalists who are probably creating some of the best content that you're doing across the board. And our feeling is that you could use that quality journalism more widely to build your reputation and to grow your revenue numbers. You invested this money in this content. In some ways, it seems odd then to hide it away, for example, in a printed magazine, which only your members see. And linked to that, we think there's a conversation still to be had about the value of print magazines versus digital magazines. We certainly see, in our view, that you could use your digital magazine as a way of making your content available to potentially to everybody and to a much more wide audience, while keeping your print magazine as the version which is the member benefit. And certainly from our research, it shows that readers value the print magazine still as something physical, as something they can hold. So you can differentiate that. And we've certainly had examples where clients have been nervous about making their digital versions available to all, but have not found it being an impact in the long term. And certainly if you're investing time and resource in, for example, creating effective social media campaigns, we all know that effective social media requires effective and strong content. And what we would argue is that you're often doing that through your magazine and through other channels. So if you can make as much of that content available online to a wide audience, that will help you grow your reputation and in time will help you grow your membership numbers. So that's certainly something that CPL feels is an opportunity. So just to finish off, as we're coming out of COVID, this ABC, we feel that it's going to be as relevant in the future as it has been in the last 2 or 3 months and as it was in the period before. Clearly, we've seen organisations adapting and pivoting in the last few months. They've done a really good job in that. And some of the new channels that have been used are definitely going to carry on being used in the future. And that's absolutely appropriate that they should be. We still feel there's real opportunities to build on the existing channels that you have because they're tried and tested and trusted, and that can really add value. And certainly, that will be the case in the future as it has been right now. And it's really important. There's been obviously across the board, we've seen every webinar everyone's attended has said how important it is to be communicating clearly and a lot at the moment. And that will be no different in the future. Communication is going to be as key for the future as it has been for now. And so connecting with the audience through effective content is going to be absolutely fundamental. So that's just a very quick run through of some of the findings from our report, from our content collection report, and how that feeds in to our experience of the last few weeks and months. And I'd be interested to take some questions. And I say, do please visit the CPL website, cpl.co.uk/the content connection, where you can download the report and read more about it in detail. We've got some opportunity for questions, and also on the slides here some details about how you can get in touch with us. I'm Mike Sewell, and also with Lucy, who's on this call, and with Richard, our Director of Commercial, if you'd like to find out more. But for now, I will hand over to Lucy to see if we've had any questions. Lucy, you're on mute.
There you go. Yes, we've got some questions coming through. The first one is, what was the breakdown of organisations that took part in your research?
Okay, so having a look at that in the survey, looking through this breakdown here, it was mainly professional associations. So that was 68% were professional associations, 16% were learning societies, 11% charities, and trade associations and regulatory bodies as well made up the remainder of that. As I say, and the organisations varied in size from 20%, which were kind of up to 5,000 members, with then 8% with between 100 and 200,000, and then one which was over 400,000. The majority were in the 10 to 20,000 membership numbers. And
okay, there's another question here. Could you give your thoughts on brand? How being the trusted source in times of crisis and any other time can add value to the brand? How easy or hard it is to be reactive and ensure, excuse me, brand values are upheld, etc.
Yeah, and I think it's been a really interesting period, the last few weeks and months, to see how organisations have responded. And clearly, in the sort of wider world, there's been some. At the very beginning, there was some good examples of some bad behaviour from organisations, including kind of some of those. The Sports Direct comes to mind, and others where they responded badly. I think what I've seen of membership organisations is the speed with which they've adapted and really emphasise the value of a membership organisation as being somewhere where you can go to talk to your peers and learn from your peers has been really interesting to see, as I pointed out earlier in the slides, the way that kind of creating online virtual communities that people can be a part of. And I think that the fact that you're part of a membership organisation, in a lot of cases, both on behalf of your organisation, but also as an individual, and the way that a membership body can support you during that time is really key. And in terms of keeping to the brand, I guess it's following a lot of the messages that come away from these takeaways. It's being consistent in your communication, being upfront, and really showing that you're living your values. Because as has been said elsewhere, this is a time when organisations have really shown whether they are being true to their values or not. And I think from what I've seen in the membership sector, membership organisations have done a great job in that way. And certainly from our point of view, the way they've continued to create content and being committed to creating content, committed to continuing with their magazines, even when some financial challenges associated with them, has been really key. Because obviously, at times like this, as I said earlier, communication is so important. I hope that answers that one.
Another question, this one's advertising revenues are down for them. You said in your presentation that people are hesitant to go 100% digital because the member magazine is a valued asset. Are there any suggestions you have in terms of how to continue to publish the magazine without going 100% digital to cut costs?
Yeah, we've certainly had some examples. We work with a number of different membership organisations, and as I said, they've responded in different ways about the way forward. In virtually every case, they have chosen to continue with where they've had a print magazine, to continue with their print magazine and continue distributing that. They've obviously worked hard to make sure that where necessary they can be delivered to people's home addresses. In a couple of cases, organisations have said, okay, we're going to reduce the print run. One organisation has said, actually, we're going to reduce it significantly and really focus on promoting our digital magazine, because the mailing is a big part of the cost. So that's been one way, and then others have looked at their print runs and said, actually, okay, we're just going to focus on where the majority of our members are. So, for example, organisations that have international members, that can be a big part of the cost for delivery. And some have said, okay, for now we're going to only send publications to our UK audiences. So that's a couple of ways of looking at those costs. And then other ways, in terms of the size of the magazine, for example, we've certainly seen slightly thinner issues in this period, and that's been a way forward. But as I said, the vast majority of certainly of our clients have said, actually, right now we want to continue to communicate, we want to continue keeping our members absolutely in the loop with what is happening, and using a tried and trusted channel to do that.
Okay, related to this question, do you think the current crisis will have an impact on how members value print versus online publications going forward? And do you have a steer on the popularity of print at the moment?
I think and certainly all the research from when we did this survey was that I think every organisation except one, their magazine was still printed in some way. I mean, obviously it's about complementary channels, and I don't think any of the membership organisations did not have some sort of digital alternative to complement the print magazine. So I still believe that print has a really important part to play, and actually, as we're all kind of zoomed out, as it were, so the actual tangibility of holding a print magazine and spending time reading that is still really key. Certainly our experiences is that the dwell times and the times people spend reading print magazines tends to be longer than is the case with digital magazines. Generally, I think we've all seen over the last decade or so, perhaps a gradual development where the print magazine might not be where it used to be monthly. It might go, for example, be 6 times a year or even 4 times a year, and the real focus on making the print magazine something really, really special. But if you're going to do that, you really need to make sure it's accompanied by a decent digital content hub, which supports the magazine and which has got real credibility and real searchability to work alongside that. So we do believe that they need to work complementarily, but certainly, 10, 15 years ago, we might all have thought that print magazines for this sector would not be around now, but that is just clearly not the experience that we're having generally. There are examples where organisations are making that call, but certainly with all of our clients, and the one example I had where they've decided to go digital mainly for this issue, although they are printing a short run print version, that's only a short-term measure at this stage.
Okay, probably time for one last question. In terms of the key takeaways, how do you think, how could you adapt these for different sized organisations? Are there any key trends that you would do for larger versus the smaller organisations?
I mean, I think the takeaways hold true whatever the size of your organisation, and frankly, whoever you're communicating to and whoever your audiences are. Clearly, as I think I alluded to, there's a challenge sometimes is just on how many people you have and how much budget you have to deliver your content across different channels. So I would say that can have the most impact. I do think that now, as always, it's always useful to continue to review your channels, review what you're doing, review your strategy, and work out what the best strategy to deliver is. But certainly I would say those 5 takeaways, those 5 messages, and the ABC as well will hold true for you, whatever the size of your organisation, for the future. And as in lots of things in life, it's about getting the basics right, and it's about doing a few. Our view is about doing a few things really, really well, and that will hopefully benefit you in the long term in terms of really creating really strong content that's going to do the job you need it to do.
Great. Okay, I think we've hit the time now, so thank you for that. As I said earlier, we've got the recording going of the webinar, so we'll share this with you shortly and make it available to everyone who attended. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, everybody, and do get in contact via those links if you need to, if you like to. Thank you.